All right, all right. Hello, everyone, and now welcome. Well, maybe I should turn a camera or a light on me so I don't look so bad. All right, let's do that. Uh, all right. Hopefully, I'm not too backlit. Anyways, hello, everyone, and welcome to a discussion of Playtest Realm Patch 1.350. I had a quick look overall. This is not in production yet or for general release. They are still testing things out, making sure that they don't break the game. I am glad that they are actually making balance changes this time around. The past couple of patches that they've made had broken replays, but did not actually change the actual gameplay at all. One of the things that I wish, well, Blizzard would fix. If there's a balance change, and obviously the replay is not going to work from one game to another because, well, the stats are different, the numbers are different. That totally makes sense. But if you add clans in BattleNet, it should not break the replay of if you didn't make any changes. That's something to talk about as players are still trying to study old replays and then constantly have their replays no longer viewable. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into this. First things first, balance general overall. All tavern revives cost 5% at all levels. This is to kind of make it a little bit more of a decision when you lose your hero in the middle of a battle, whether or not you want to revive at the tavern. It almost felt like it was a no-brainer, especially for orc heroes who could you revive at the tavern, one healing salve, one clarity potion, and you're pretty much back to normal already, as opposed to say some of the other races who don't have access to a burst heal. Undead also benefiting from tavern resurrections. You lose your lich, you resurrect at the tavern, you death coil it once, and then an obsidian statue and also a dark ritual later, you're already back up to full mana. No big loss there. So putting a little bit more of a cost in terms of reviving at the tavern. It's already expensive. I don't it Players and those high level players who really value that time are still going to revive at the tavern. It just makes it so that it's not a quick no brain decision and actually puts a little bit of tension there. I do like it. A human blacksmith lumber costs from 60 to 50, allowing you to get your blacksmith down a little bit quicker. Peasant hit point increase from 230 to 240. Militia will be a little bit stronger, 10 hit points. Trying to save those peasants from getting harassed. That will be nice. Control magic move from tier 2 to tier 3. Um, I guess just trying to control those spirit wolves or putting a little bit more tension. I don't really feel as though control magic, at least in the highest levels of gameplay, was that broken. But perhaps in like the random team ladder and those other lower ladders, control magic had become a problem. Siphon mana cost increased from 10 to 20. That actually it may be a bit of a problem, especially when you consider the siphon mana the drain rate is reduced. So before, as long as you initiated the drain and held the drain on for 1 second, you at least netted a little bit of mana. It now feels like at level 1, you can often end up with negative mana. So we'll see how all of that works. Maybe 10 to 15 would have been a little bit better. 20 does seem like a bit of an increase, but we'll see how all of that works there. Holy Light cooldown reduced from 5 to 4 seconds, allowing for the Paladin to get off more Holy Lights, perhaps being able to burst heal more of those units. That's probably going to change the human versus undead matchup the most, as undead unloads death coils and frost novas on your heroes. And it often feels like you're just trying to get your holy light cooldown to try and heal back up a bit more and trying to win out that race. Polymorph cost reduced from 220 to 200. I don't think that's going to change all that much. For the most part, Polymorph is one of those niche spells where you surprise your opponent, it catches them off guard, and then it's never useful in the game later on because they're going to have access to Dispel. So it's pretty much an all-in strategy, and then once you have it, well, then you kind of keep it in your back pocket. Your sorceresses have a little bit more hit points, a little bit more mana, but you may not be using Polymorph all that much. It's completely useless against the undead because of Devour magic And now with so many of the other races having an AoE dispel, well, it's just not that great. Mechanical critter sight range increase, don't care. Siege Engine now has heavy armor over fortified armor. All right, so that is a major debuff. Siege Engine now has heavy armor, making it so that they actually take bonus damage from magic. Destroyers are going to be able to shoot them down easily. Griffins are going to be able to shoot them down easily. Other casters are going to be able to destroy them much more quickly. So, how much more quickly? Well, before with the heavy armor, I believe your damage is reduced by half, and half or maybe even a quarter. I'll have to look over the numbers. You just never use magic damage against buildings because the damage just fizzles into nothing. And now instead of being half or a quarter, you're actually doubling the amount of damage they're taking. So that might be a 200 to 400% increase in damage. And well, siege engines are even with the anti-air attack are not going to be able to take down destroyers. That makes so little sense. Siege engine can now attack units. Okay. Siege engines can now attack units with siege damage. If their range is still very small, then I don't see it that helpful. The siege engine base damage is now cut in half. All right, so we rarely saw siege engines in professional play as of late. They were an annoying unit in on the ladder because players didn't know how to deal with them, and now it seems like you've just completely cut them. Siege engine barrage damage increased from 14 to 16. Well, all right, so now a griffin now does 4 times more damage to a siege engine than before, and the siege engine now does 20% more damage to the griffin. Yeah, no, I'm sorry that doesn't work out well. So siege engine, um, we barely saw you in high level play. We are not going to see you at all in high level play now, pretty much. Mass teleport cooldown increase from 20 to 30 seconds. I do agree with that. That mass teleport did seem to be very fast. Most human players on the highest level always had a scroll of town portal in their back pocket as well, just in case mana became a problem to escape. But it does make it, instead of a cooldown based problem or a mana based problem, now a cooldown based problem. Mortar team hit point increase from 360 to 380. That will give them a little bit more survivability against those death coils and splash frost nova AoEs. I'll say this again. The fact that humans have the only siege unit that is targetable with Death Coil and Frost Nova is one of the reasons why, well, Mortar was one of the reasons why humans have problems against Undead. If you're trying to use that superior range on the Mortar team to get to the Banshees, the casters in the back line, those Obsidian statues, and you're just feeding experience to your opponent instead, that's no good. Siege engine no longer decreases in unit level when getting the barrage upgrade. Okay, I didn't even know that was a thing. Okay. Moving right along, Headhunter's cost increased from 140 to 160. So this is going to show that, well, and lumber is also increasing from 20 to 30. Headhunters had become a main staple, and now with their cost going up from 140 to 160, that is a pretty significant amount. And also with the lumber causing a little bit more tension on your tech. Well, we may not see mass headhunters into berserkers nearly as often. Blade Master mirror images now deal 10% of Blade Master's base damage. I guess that's nice. Not only do you have to figure out which one is the mirror image now, it will be a little bit more difficult because, well, that Blade Master is still, both of them can be dealing damage. So you just can't simply ignore that mirror image. Endurance or a movement speed bonus reduced. All right. So instead of 10, 20, 30%, it is now 10, 15, 20%. I totally agree with this. Movement speed is such a big boost overall. We've seen it with Undead and Unholy Aura, and now we're seeing it with Endurance Aura on the Orc. Orc thematically was supposed to be this big, slow, powerful army, and once Endurance Aura it came into play, suddenly it became this big, powerful, fast army that was able to outrun quite a few things as well. Witch Doctor healing wards increased from 5 to 10 hit points. not gonna change anything. Well, before really 5 to 10 hit points. It's like instead of getting coughed on to die, now you get sneezed on to kill it. Like it's completely irrelevant. The number of things that deal less than 10 damage. That you would actually target a healing ward, very minimal. Most players would use a ranged hero, F1, F2, F3 to do the auto attack. Yeah, that healing ward hit point increased. No one's going to notice anything. Stasis trap activation delay reduced from 9 to 7 seconds. We may see some stasis trap use. I do like stasis trap, and it will be interesting to see how that works overall. Stasis trap activation delay 9 to 7. If actual players actually start using those witch doctors, trying to encourage witch doctor play. Brute strength bonus increase from 100 to 150 hit points. So grunts at tier 2 are going to be even more powerful. 50 additional hit points on top of that. Yeah, just very, very beefy, strong grunts. All right, moving right along. Night Elf. Tranquility cooldown increased from 60 to 120 seconds. Well, Keeper of the Grove, you had one of the best ultimate abilities in the game, in that it was both useful in and out of combat. And you seemingly were able to cast that ultimate ability so often. It is a very, very powerful ability. Going from 60 to 120 does seem like a very large jump. Getting that Keeper of the Grove to level 6 is not that earth shattering any longer. I don't know if I like it or not. I'll have to see how the game pans out overall. Um, I mean, the Keeper of the Grove, once you get to level 3, about there was no exciting levels up until you got to level 6. If you compare it to the Death Knight or the Lich or the Mountain King or the Demon Hunters, right? Like each of like every odd level matters for the Death Knight, the Lich, the Mountain King, the Demon Hunter, because that next level of ability is just that much more powerful. And it's like, oh, okay, a little bit more powerful or significantly more powerful, a substantial power increase, a substantial power increase. And then it almost felt like the Death Knight going from 5 to 6. Well, that wasn't a substantial power increase, but all of those others from 2 to 3 and from 4 to 5 was such a big power increase in the undead army that it made up for 5 to 6 not being that powerful. Same thing for the Lich, right? 2 to 3, 4 to 5, right? Those were big power increases, and then from 5 to 6, well, were you really going to see Death and Decay be used that much, or a higher level Dark Ritual? Maybe, but that power spike isn't there. Keeper of the Grove, level 3 Keeper of the Grove. Oh, okay. Level 4 Keeper of the Grove. Oh, okay. Level 5 Keeper of the Grove. Oh, okay. Before level 6, wow, you have to worry about tranquility now. Now, not so much. Starfall cooldown reduced from 180 to 120. Yeah, it did feel like Starfall was a bit too long. Now Night Elf players with the Priestess of the Moon can pressure more often with Starfall, and it is big threat. Also, the Starfall mana cost reduced will make it easier to cast it. Druid of the Talon Crow form now does piercing damage. All right, that's going to be interesting in that Druids of the Talon can now be useful against destroyers. In that crow form, they were dealing magic damage, and destroyers are magic immune. So completely useless there. The only thing that they would have been quote unquote possibly useful in terms of the bonus damage would have been flying machines, but you don't want to have Druids of the Talon going up against flying machines anyways. So, all right, going to piercing damage makes more sense. Entangle duration on units reduced. All right. I think the damage is supposedly supposed to be the same. We'll have to keep a close eye on that. Thorn's aura increased now from the damage percentage, the damage reflection back from 10, 20, 30% to 15, 30, and 45. Um, I'm gonna have to take a close look on that. We haven't seen a lot of Thorn's aura lately, even in the Night Elf mirror matches with bears. We'll see if how this transitions over. Mountain giants now start with some armor. Hardened skin damage reduced from 12 to 8. All right, so now they're just rechanging the math a little bit. We'll have to see how that works. Ultra Vision now requires tier 2. Well, Night Elf players seemingly had that tier 1 advantage for quite a while during that first Nightfall. Moving it to tier 2, I don't think it's going to change that much overall. Immolation mana drain reduced from 7 to 5. I don't know if we're going to see that much use of immolation, but there is that damage increase as well. So immolation per interval increased from 10 to 10 or by 5 in each, and the immolation duration reduced from. Okay, I need to see how all of this works. Like in the math, right? So the mana drain is reduced from 7 to 5, but the duration is from 1 to 0.5. So does that mean it used to be 7 mana for 1 second, and now it's 5 mana for a half a second, but now you're dealing 15 damage? Like, I need to actually see how the numbers really work there. Yeah, really need to see how the numbers work there. Moving right along, anti-magic shell can now finally can receive the same summon magic damage inflicted by dispel, purge, and abolish magic. This was something that was absolutely necessary. Anti-magic shell being placed down, but then not being able to be dispelled off was a major problem that undead players were using and abusing against their not well, even against their undead counterparts, actually. So nice to see that working there. Unholy aura movement speed reduced again. So now it is now, instead of 10, 17 and a half, 25, it is now 10, 15, 20. All right. So remember, I said this in years past, that undead, that unholy aura on that death knight, allowing those crypt fiends to essentially outrun knights who were supposed to be able to chase down those targets. This will help. Movement speed, in the words of Ender Wiggin, movement is a major part of the battle. If you're in the right place, you can deal damage. Otherwise, you can't. Animate dead corpses can now be killable and have disease cloud if researched. All right, so animate the dead, the ultimate ability of the undead Death Knight, which was rarely ever used, will still be rarely ever used. Interesting that they made animate dead corpses killable, even though the Avatar of Vengeance, they're leaving those unkillable, um, and immune to damage. For me personally, you can leave them immune to damage, but just don't let them go beyond a certain range of the actual avatar, right? Like, put like the scroll of town portal range around that Avatar of Vengeance, and if one of those Spirit of Vengeances goes outside that range, away from the Avatar of Vengeance, then they disappear. That way, you can't just build up this army and then just constantly send them of all of these small things, right? That are completely invulnerable. All right. Disease cloud reduced from 90 seconds to 75 seconds. Yes, this was definitely something that needed to be had. Wait, Ghoul Frenzy now adds 30 hit points to Ghoul's base health. Okay, a little bit of extra hit points for the Ghouls. That will, I think that's like a 10%, at least a 10% increase or somewhere in there. That will help. Also being able to cannibalize corpses, or not cannibalize, that's something else. Frenzy. All right, so deal a little more damage and also take a little bit more damage. Good upgrade overall. And disease cloud reduced from 90 to 75 seconds. All right, so dryads won't, like, pretty much die after 90 seconds after getting coughed on by an abomination. Big change here, though. Obsidian statue level increased from 2 to 3. That is the vaguest description I've ever seen. Horribly written, if they mean obsidian statues now require tier 3 from the slaughterhouse if you need a black citadel in order to train them. I think that's what it means. Right? Because the obsidian statue, the food supply was already 3, and then it would go to 5. So that's the only thing that makes sense to me. And if that is the case, that means that undead players are not able to mass up a large number of obsidian statues and then convert them to destroyers the instant the destroyer form upgrade is done. It means that that first obsidian statue will come out just a little bit later. Undead players will be teching to tier 3 and training up that lich at the start of tier 2, and then summoning that slaughterhouse while upgrading to tier 3 to get that first obsidian statue. It's going to change their build orders a little. yeah, it's going to change their build orders a little, and players will respond and react accordingly. I don't know how the dust is going to fall on this change yet, but that's just my 2 cents. Items: Wand of Illusion reduced from 3 to 2 charges. All right. Wand of Mana increased mana steal from 50 to 75. All right. Makes it on par of a potion of mana, but you're actually stealing it from your opponent, but your opponent has to be nearby. So it gives it a little bit of tension there. Circlet stats reduced from +2 to all stats to 112, but players can click to toggle the item to add the additional. Okay. I mean, we all knew that the Circlet of Nobility was just crazy bonker in stats, and that it was just far too powerful. Making the Circlet so that it's now 112, but you can choose which one it is. Um, I don't think people will be buying circlets from the shop anymore. They'll still be excited to get them, but they may not be buying them from the shop anymore. And also it will be harder to get decent amount of hit points on your archmage and those intellect based heroes early on, because that's what the circlets really did, right? Legion Dune Horror movement speed. Okay, so these two items reduced is in line with the, well, actually just half of the movement speed bonus from their tier 1 counterparts, because movement speed is that important. All right, in this patch, we're updating existing 1v1, 2v2, 4v4, and FFA map pools. All right, made by the community. Remove the character requirement. All right, all of that there. So, bunch of replies. Hopefully, what are your guys' thoughts? Let me know. Leave them in the comments below. And for all of you guys out there, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I will be out of the country for a bit, not making videos, but I will be back in the new year. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.